So hello everyone once again to WoSo Collective. It's me, Kudzi, and André coming to you hot, I guess. Well, not hot because
Sure.
it's been over 24 hours since the final quarterfinals at the Euro 2022 finished. But here we are with our recap of the quarterfinals. Um, hello, André. Say hello to the people.
Hello, good people. This has been a very fun tournament, so I'm very excited to keep talking about it, and I appreciate you all for listening.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to go right into it. We're going to start right at the top with England versus Spain. I think pretty much all the quarterfinals the results ended up how we thought they were going to work out. They didn't work out the way we thought they were going to work out, except maybe the Germany versus Austria game. But yeah, I would say maybe that's the only one that kind of went the way we thought we would go. But the rest of them, yeah, they did not go how we expected. But the winners of each of those games are who we predicted to win.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start off with England versus Spain, like I talked about. So I think for me, the key to that game was the changes that each coach made. And I think the changes, especially in the second half, that Serena Wigman made, and the changes that Jorge Vilda made to counter the changes that Wigman had made, they didn't quite work out the way he thought they were going to work out. I think they were the right changes, but just the wrong personnel. And that ultimately decided who would win the game. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, although I'll say it was a whole lot of fun watching Del Castillo go to work.
Yeah. So I think we can start right there. So first of all, when the starting lineups dropped, and I noticed that Tere or Teresa had been put into the midfield for the first time in this tournament, I was shocked because I was like, what's going on here? She hasn't played. She usually doesn't play. Is he just like trying to create a scapegoat? Like, what's going on here, right? All the other changes that he made, I agreed with, like starting Marta Corona, agreed with. Starting Olga Carmona, agreed with.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was like, what's going on? Like, usually I think in the very first game, he had put in, 1 second. I want to make sure I get her name right. In the very first game, he had played a similar formation, except that in midfield, he had put in Leia Alexandri, right? But in this game, he decided to go with Teresa. And I think I understand his reasoning why he went with Teresa, because she's a bit more progressive than Alexandri. But at the same time, I'm like, she has 0 minutes in this tournament. Why are you doing that? That was my first thing.
We've seen so much of that from women's coaches recently. I mean, we saw it in, of course, like even in the CONCACAF W Championship, watching that, just seeing coaches, especially like the Mexico coach did that as well, made some very strange lineup choices. And for like the first, started a brand new center back pairing. And it's like, why would you do that? So it seems like it carried over into a few of these because there were some curious decisions, and that was certainly one of them.
Yeah. And then, so I think just generally speaking for what she was asked to do, I think she did okay. She didn't light it up or anything like that, which I wasn't expecting. I was actually expecting worse, but only because of the occasion and stuff like that, and just putting her into the fire and stuff like that. But she did okay.
Yeah.
And then at halftime, he brought on, as you know, Del Castillo. Excuse me. I call her Athenia because, that's usually what we call her. We don't usually call her anything else.
I do too, but I feel I just, for some reason, I like Athenia is I like that name so much better, but then I'm like, all right, I should use like the last name like I do with everybody else, but Athenia is
But
dope.
I mean, it's Spain, they don't really use last name, they use first name. So I think we can get away with calling her Athenia. So yeah, he brings on Athenia, and I'm like, okay, that's a good sub. And he brings her on for Marta Cardona.
Yeah, that was rough.
I didn't understand that. I was like, okay, I understand your reasoning. I think just before the game started or during the first half, I had tweeted that I'm pretty sure what Builder's plan B is. I didn't say her name, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. The question is, when is he going to bring it in? And then he brought it in at halftime. Didn't understand that because I thought if you're looking to stretch England's back line and to stop the likes of Bronze and Daly going forward, then you should have wingers on both sides that will make them make them drop back like 5 yards or 10 yards, right? That they won't keep coming up because they're afraid of the pace behind them. Instead, he just took off one winger for the other. Now, to say that, it was a brilliant move because it worked out spectacularly for him. It was a great, like it, hindsight 2020 and all that. But during the first 20 minutes in that second half, roughly 20 minutes, that was a brilliant move by him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe he's on to something here by bringing her on to go right after Daly. That was a smart move. I would have, like I said, I wouldn't have made that change at halftime, and I wouldn't have made it for Cardona, because essentially what happened was that after that, as Spain started to, I don't know whether they tired or whether he told them to drop back. I'm not sure what was going on because of England's subs. I was like, oof, you could have used another winger on right now. Now was when you could have used another winger on the other side and dropped Mariona into midfield.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, I think he jumped the gun a little bit on that one, because even if he had gone 15, 20 minutes into the second half, it was still 0-0, and then brought on Athenia, she would have still had the same effect. Except now there's less time for England to be able to pick up an equalizer or to adjust or whatever, right? So that was, I think, for me, that was the first point where I was like, oof, you kind of got it right. And then now I'm beginning to feel a little bit skeptical about what you're trying to do here. And then so after that, he brought on, like I talked about, he brought on Sheila Garcia, and he brought on Alexandri to replace Esther and Teresa. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Because yes, okay, bringing on Esther made sense because she was, running out of gas. She'd be like, I know people talk about how she never scores goals, blah, 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 blah. But she was running that England backline ragged she was constantly running at them, constantly running behind them, constantly drawing them in, and like they couldn't just ignore her and put her inside and be like, oh, we don't care what she's doing. They had to pay attention to her all the time, and it gave space to everyone else. So I understood why she was subbed out, because I'm like, okay, she's probably exhausted. But to bring on Sheila Garcia, when later on in extra time, when you see in the second half of extra time, when you see him bring on Aimur Seregi, he makes such an impact, but he only gives her 20, I don't want to say 20 minutes, but I think it was less than that, to basically make something happen. I'm like, okay, well, why didn't you bring her on for Esther? You can see what she's doing right now. That would have been the move.
Yeah.
And then also bringing on Alexandri kind of ceded possession to England, because he was basically saying, okay, we're going to defensive. And this was like at the 70th, something like that, 70th minute or something like that. He was basically saying to England, okay, I can see you guys are pushing forward, come at us. And I'm like, why would you do that? There's still way too much time for them to find an equalizer, considering the amount of people that are now in your box.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he should have done was kept it, not saying all out attack, but at least kept it progressive in midfield, so that England wouldn't be able to, like in extra time, we saw Georgia Stanway come forward and score a goal. If he had been a bit more progressive with his midfield, she wouldn't have had the opportunity to step forward like that. She would have been more worried about the fact that Juan Martí or Mariona could get behind her and cause some damage. So yeah, I'll let you step in here before we switch over to the rest.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I agree with everything you said. I think it was, I think the way the match went and how tense it was, it almost seems like it was a reaction thing at halftime, because I think everybody wanted to see, and I know I've been tweeting like forever, like put Athenia in, like start her, put her in the game, like that. I want to see her go at the other team's fullback. So like I really want to see that. But it did seem weird that it seemed rushed. Like if you started off with a plan, the plan's going okay, then like, because the one thing we had questions about with England is what are they going to do when their wingers are neutralized? And that was a big deal. Like Olga Carmona and Ona Bete were on them, like did not let them get by. We're not like shutting them down, or had brilliant defensive games. And it seemed like you can ride that for a while. You didn't need to make that change so soon, particularly when you got the lead. That was like, okay, and I get wanting to protect the lead, try to hold on to it. It's the second half goal. You want to hold on to it, but I think it was the 54th minute or something. It was early in the second half. And it was like, that's a very, very, very dangerous England team. And at some point they're going to take off Ellen White and things are going to get a little bit more fluid up there. That kind of happened. But yeah, it was just, I agree with you. He seemed the right idea for the move, but kind of overshot it, did it too quickly. And then when the team really needed something else, he tried to have them bunker, and it was like, ooh, that's a bad idea to do right now. But I mean, I'll give him credit for the setup, the initial setup, because it really frustrated England. And definitely give him credit for just Athenia. I just think, like you said, that you could have rode out the rest of like the last 20 minutes of a game with just her attacking Rachel Daly. And instead of when it happened, and then England had a chance to adjust, and then of course they grew some momentum from that, because not only were they able to adjust, but they're able to adjust to the point where they could shut that down, but then also work on build-up play. And I think that's where the game really turned for England. So it was. I feel bad because everybody, like, we've been on build-up for a while, because with good reason, it does a lot of things that are strange, that don't make sense. Roster selection on up to tactics. But it did seem like he had the right ideas. They just were executed at weird times.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll leave Spain for just a second, then switch over to England and talk about their game plan. This was the first time where I think we had talked about it before, that England's plan A up to that point had worked.
Brilliant.
Every single time. Plan A was spot on. Yep. They never had to worry about plan B. And I think not even just us, even, people in England, the pundits and writers and all that, they were like, we want to see what it will look like when plan A doesn't work. Mm-hmm. What is plan B for England? And I don't know if you could say it was a plan B as such. I think she just said, we're going to put everyone up top and we're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. I mean, she had Millie Bright up there as a
I was going to say, Millie Bright ran up top. Golden Boot winner, Millie Bright. Exactly. Don't get it twisted.
Exactly. So I'm like, I don't know if that was a genuine plan B, or it's more of, okay, we can overwhelm them with numbers because we're going for broke. Let's just go. Because if we lose, we lose. Like, we're already losing anyways. So we lose, right? But why not just go for it? Because it's knockout stages. You got to do whatever you got to do to make it through to the next round, right? So I don't know if you could genuinely call it a plan B, but it worked.
Yeah.
And what it also showed us was, especially the WoSo for White substitution, that was the big one where everyone was kind of like, maybe going forward, she should start over Ellen White. Like, I know how England are with their stars and how they can be with their veteran players, and they tend to hold on to them forever, and the media likes to big them up even when they're playing badly, and just all that kind of stuff. I get it. But as shown against Spain, the minute that WoSo came on, and obviously there were other changes as well made, like she took out Frank Kirby, she took out Beth Mead, which was interesting to me. I thought she was going to take out, of the two wingers, I thought she was going to take out him.
Me too.
But she brought on WoSo, especially for Ellen White, and WoSo straight away made a difference. And WoSo, anytime she's come on, she's made a difference. But afterwards, when I was thinking about it, I was actually like, maybe the reason why she doesn't want to start her is because she's essentially playing as a super sub right now. So if you start her, I'm just saying that this could be the reasoning. So if you start her, you lose that surprise factor that she brings in the second half against teams. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if it's true. I'm just saying that could be a reason why she continues to start Ellen White.
I will say, correct. It could be a reason. I will also say that I hate when that reason is used. I absolutely hate it, because we're not seeing a player come in and get like a 20-minute burst of something. No, the overall fluidity of the team changes. Like, that is a different thing than just a player who has individual quality to make an impact. It's almost like the inverse of the thing with Del Castillo. Like, she comes in and she's tearing up Rachel Daly and they have to react. That's the kind of thing you want to see a super sub do. You come in and you have a direct impact and change the game because of your individual quality. What happens when WoSo comes in, the team plays differently. They play a little bit more fluidly. It was her that got the header and the knockdown in between two Spain defenders, got the knockdown for Toon to come into and get that touch that was the equalizing goal. So I'm like, they just play better when she's like, the entire attack plays better. So that's why I don't not towards you, because yes, that is the explanation. I'm sure if you asked Serena why, she would say, I want that energy off the bench. I want to be able to change the game in that way. But to me, I'm like, that's not exactly what's happening. What's happening is your actual attacking plan is able to be executed the way that it's meant to be. And to me, if that's the case, probably want to start the player who's better at doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was to give a credit for the Alex Greenwood substitution.
Yes.
Not just because Rachel Daly was having a horrid second half. Like, I think anyone with eyeballs was like, oh, okay, she has to come off. She has to come off before this gets even worse.
There's so many gifts.
So many gifts. Like, if anything, if I'm a Spanish fan or Spanish supporter, considering how the team played, losing Alexia so close to the tournament, and obviously losing Hermoso beforehand and stuff like that, there's a lot there to give them encouragement, because they've got a really, like, if you look at their core is not even that old, right? Like, if you look at that Barcelona midfield, they're not even that old. Yeah. And then you've got a core of youngsters who, I mean, for example, Claudia Pina didn't see any time, but she's excellent. Yeah. Like, if they can get in the right kind of, I'm sorry, but the right coach, if they bring in the right coach, they could be a force. They really could be a force. But swinging back to Greenwood, what she did was that she not only, no, I won't say nullified Athenia, because that's not quite right. Yeah. But what she did was that she shut down that side of the flank for Spain. And what it meant was that Spain had to go the other side if they wanted to try and create something, because Bronze was the one who was pushing forward a lot. Greenwood wasn't. Greenwood was staying behind. Yeah. And I think that's where, that earlier point I made where I was like, there was no width. He didn't bring in any width to threaten that side because he had already brought on Athenia for Cardona. Whereas maybe the smarter thing would have been to keep Athenia in his pocket and then bring her on when England were pushing forward, because then she would have absolutely torn it up even more, right? Mm-hmm. And then the thing with Greenwood, what it did was that, like I talked about, it let Lucy Bronze go forward. Mm-hmm. And Lucy Bronze going forward is a sight to see because she makes things happen. And so now you had all that pressure. Carmona, who had basically shut down that left flank for Spain, suddenly has to handle whoever's out there, whether it's, I think at the time it was Tune. Was it Tune? Or was it him switched over? I can't remember.
Yeah, but they swapped a lot, and Chloe Kelly came on as well. So Chloe Kelly was a big problem.
Came on as well.
Yeah.
So she had to handle that, plus Bronze going forward, because Mariona isn't like, yes, she will, if you ask her to do it, she'll do it, but she's not a natural wide player who will stick with her left back or right back, depending on where she's playing. But in this case, her right back, right? She's going to try to drift in more because that's her game. She's always going to be closer to the middle than out wide. So now you're asking Carmona to do a lot more groundwork and cover more than 2-3 players at a time. And, no player, it doesn't matter what that left back is and who it is in the world, is going to be able to do that. Yeah. So I think that was a smart choice by Serena, by bringing on Greenwood. And like I said, she brought on all those other players to really push for the ball. And what it also did, because Spain were now dropping back, trying to deal with all these personnel in front of them in the box and stuff. We talked about this before, but as shown in the Champions League, Barcelona do not handle pressure on that back line very well. Yeah. Spain, because their spine at the back is Barcelona, capitulated the same way. They couldn't handle it. And, Patri's supposed to be the defensive midfielder, right? Where was she when Stanway came forward?
That was like the way that goal, the way that, like, the build up to that goal, it was very like, y'all just really gonna let her step up into that space and just shoot like that. Like you did all the work, you're in extra time. Like you can, it's hard because the way the game was going, it's not like Spain had a ton of chances, but still, either you score a goal from a set piece, like there's still opportunities to win the game, penalties, whatever. But it just seems like, I don't know whether it was them being tired or not understanding, like not being, this could also go to your point with the unfamiliarity of the midfielders kind of playing together as well sometimes, is that it's just like nobody took responsibility in that moment. And all it took was that little bit of hesitation. And honestly, credit to Georgia Stanway, because that was a hell of a rip. Like, that was a shot. It was like, it was on the goalkeeper across the body, nasty shot. And it was just like, but you're right. I mean, if you look at that, and I know that Spain will probably look at that. I think they already knew as soon as it happened, like, why did we just give up a shot? I mean, she carried the ball. Like, how many yards? Drove right at them, and they just kept backing up.
Yeah, no one stepped up to it. So that's the thing, was like bringing on Greenwood was, it kind of was the I don't know if you want to call it the key or the changing point or whatever, but the fact that Greenwood could now sit with I want to say Millie Bright, not Millie Bright, Leah Williamson, because Bright had gone forward. What they basically did, is there was gaps there that Spain could have exploited, but they didn't. Yeah. But what it also did was that bronze could go forward as well, knowing that, okay, I don't have to worry as much about defending because I know Greenwood will handle Athenia better than Daly will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So she just said, okay, I'm going to go for it. And if we get caught out, we get caught out. But we're less likely to get caught out now because Alex Greenwood is on than we were before with Rachel Daly. Yeah. And I do want to point out something. I think it was, I don't know if it was the commentary team. I can't remember who the commentary team was for the UK broadcast. I can't remember who it was. But one of them actually pointed out during extra time that whenever the ball came into Spain, and Paños got a hold of the ball, like not like a goal kick or anything, but just got a hold of the ball so she could reset. Athenia was like zooming away, bombing away, kind of calling at her, being like, get the ball to me, get the ball to me, get the ball to me, because she knew that there was space back there, right?
Yeah.
And Paños wouldn't send it out to her. I can't remember who noted it, but someone on the commentary team did note it. And they were like, but that's against Spain's ethos, right? And Serena knew that was against Spain's ethos to go that direct. So she's like, you know what? I can afford to send all these people forward because Spain are going to try and play it out the back instead of saying, hey, look at our player out wide in space. Okay, let's say Paños, maybe she can't kick that far. I don't know. Maybe she can't kick that far. But she could roll it out to a midfielder who could then look up and be like, oh, there's tons of space. I don't even have to play it accurately. I'm just going to put it into space and she'll be able to run through. But because that's not how Spain play, England didn't have to worry about that. Yeah. I think that was a smart tactical decision by Serena that she was like, I recognize that this is not how they play. So they're not going to go try for the quick counter. They're going to try play it out anytime they get the ball in their hands. And I can use that to my advantage by putting a bunch of numbers in the box because there's nowhere for them to play out to.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, it is funny though. You talked about, England's plan A, which had been working very well. And then you talk about England's plan B. The question is this all they got? What was this their plan B? Because you do need a team that's not going to take advantage of something like that, which most teams will, especially deeper in a tournament. And actually, it's a little surprising that Spain did not. So I won't say surprising because we know that the way they like to play and the way they play. But all it took was like one player deciding, so what's wrong with a big, a goal kick? What's wrong with booting it long right now in this instance? I might as well try it once or twice. So if they would have done that, perhaps, that ball falls to Athenia and you've got a big problem and all that space is left behind. So it is a very risky move. So I'll definitely give her credit for that, but it's also very, very risky. And I don't know if if that's going to be the move in the semifinal or the final if they end up making it, because I think all the other teams that are left can take advantage of that space. Yeah. The only other things I really want to say about this game are I want to give a shout out, and of course, Chelsea bias, but Millie Bright.
Oh yeah, she was excellent.
She has been so good. And I'm like, I've been scared to say it publicly. Not because I don't love Millie Bright. I do, but I've been watching Millie Bright for a while, and she has these ebbs and flows in her performances. Sometimes she looks rock solid, and sometimes she does makes a really a defensive error that you're like, what were you trying to do? Why were you doing that or something? Or she gets closed down or makes a bad back pass to the keeper or something. It's just like there's something that happens. But for Chelsea's run up to the title when they couldn't drop a single point, she was excellent all throughout that. And that was months of good performances. And that's carried on into the Euros. And I just got to give her a massive shout out because I thought, okay, this is dope. We got a really good, a really well-timed Millie Bright, consistent high level performance. But it's been beyond that. It's not just a regular, she's having a good patch. No, she's been a solid defender for a long time and very solid defender, really good. So I want to give her a massive shout out because she was excellent in the air. I love all the memes that Millie Bright headed things away. I saw there was one too. I wish I could find the dude. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to remember or look it up. But the New York Post tweets these things every month, basically a giant asteroid is heading toward Earth, and the reply was Millie Bright's going to head it away. It's fine. It was the way she's playing, she might as well play, right? The other thing I want to say though, and I'm sorry I keep bringing her up, but I'm only going to bring her up because I have to say this because I tweeted it and I have to say it on this. There's only one Crystal Dunn, okay? Understand how good she is by looking at this performance. It is very, very hard to play out of position in a position like left back and go against some of the brilliant attacking talent that you go up against. I will also say Crystal Dunn should never have had to do it. She's been open about that. But she was able to handle it because she is that damn good. And Rachel Daly, we know how good she is. Why she continues to play fullback for England, I have no idea. Jess Carter, Alex Greenwood, somebody else could have absolutely taken that role and been at least been a like what Alex Greenwood did. Just say, like, you're not going to beat me consistently 1v1. Like, I'm going to get good positioning and we're going to have backup behind me. You're just not going to be able to go at me 1v1. And, it's just like, I felt bad for Rachel Daly only because, like, that is not her best position.
Yeah.
And she kind of hung out to dry against one of the, a very, very dangerous winger, somebody that we've seen, be able to tear up many defenses. And it was her job to take care of that 1v1. And that's asking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's only one Crystal Dunn. And if you didn't know, I hope you know now. Because that's what happened. That's what it usually looks like when you put an attacking player who's not a left back at left back. The only reason it didn't look like that so long for the U.S. was because Crystal Dunn is that damn good.
Yeah. And I think my final word on that game would be the coaches and the kind of confidence that they were sending out to their teams. You could see in the second half that Serena, yes, she was agitated, but she was fully behind her team, telling them to constantly go forward, telling them to keep trying, telling them to keep going. Even if it didn't work, just keep going, keep crossing, keep passing, keep going. Obviously, having a home crowd helps because, anytime that England was doing something, they were all getting behind them, getting excited.
Yeah.
But Serena had full confidence in all of the subs. She had full confidence in the team that was on the pitch. She just keep telling them to go. Vilda, you could see him wilting as the game wore on. Yeah. You could see him genuinely wilting. And we touched upon this in the group stages with Norway. Sometimes you'll have the players with the quality and this mental strength to be able to overcome a coach. Mm-hmm. And then other times, even the very best players will look to their coach and say, hey, coach, help me out. If that coach isn't ready to help them out, they're in trouble. Yeah. And unfortunately for Spain, they have a coach who is not ready or not at that level to be able to inspire confidence to them. So, yeah, there we go. That is England versus Spain. That was my final word on them. Commiserations to Spain. They have a really good team. They just need a better coach. England are one step closer to glory.
Damn shame they gave Vilda a 2-year contract extension for the tournament, but maybe we'll see maybe we'll see peak Spain in 2025. How about that?
Let's hope. Okay, so switching over to the next game, and that was basically who England are going to face in the semifinal.
Yes.
Sweden versus Belgium. It was a game that was going to determine, like I said, who's going to face England in the semifinal. England could relax, kick back, and watch this game and be like, oh, I hope it goes to extra time. So there's less recovery for whichever team we're going to face. It didn't go to extra time.
It didn't.
It did not. It took a long time to get that goal. I think we were all watching that game and wondering what was going on. Like, really, how is this game not over already? But right at the death, in stoppage time, I think after that, there might have been like one kick of the ball or something like that.
Yeah.
But right at the death, Linda Sundbrandt shows up in the penalty box. Belgium can't clear their lines during a corner kick. And, Asllani sent in another great set piece. Belgium, for once, failed to defend very well. Linda Sundbrandt was there and knocked the ball home. 1-0 to Sweden right at the death. They're through to the semifinals.
Yeah, I thought so. First of all, I got beef with VAR because they took away Blackstenius' goal, and everybody knows when Blackstenius ain't playing for Arsenal, I'm like a massive Blackstenius fan. Like, I'm a supporter. I love her game, but also the last name Blackstenius just makes me very happy. So I was very upset. It looked like a good goal. It looked like she stayed on side. Even showing the replay, I was like, ooh, she does a great job. A good recognition. She ran beyond, and she saw that they were stepping up. And she did one of those like curved run where she comes up and she's leaning forward a little bit to take off again. But it looked like in real time that she nailed it.
Yeah.
And then they show those
lines. Yeah.
God, I hate that. I'm like, it's so frustrating to see that. And I was like, come on. It's so annoying. So I got beef there. But honestly, like the weird thing about this game for me was that it didn't seem like Peter Gerhardsson was like, he made one sub the entire game. It was just like, yes, I know. So in our last preview, when we talked about Sweden, this game, we were talking about Sweden's performances and how they seem to be methodical. You know, they're kind of building up, don't want to peak at the wrong time or whatever. They're building up. This game completely like flies in the face of that. Like, yes, they had all of the shots. I think it was like 33 shots or something. It was something
30,
ridiculous.
I think it was 32 or something like that. 32.
Yeah, it was madness. They had so many shots. So, but it was that execution in front of goal. It was like that final pass or the final ball to open up something. And it was just like after that Blackstenius goal was like wiped off, it was just it almost became painful to watch because they weren't able to get in, find a good shot, get a good shot. Belgium were hanging on. You know, there were some defensive performances. And especially want to give a shout out to the keeper. Everard was amazing. She was absolutely amazing in the game, but still, not what was it, 90+2? And it was a center back coming up, just pouncing on a loose ball in the box from a corner. It was like, it's something. I mean, hey, you got to get the win however you get it. But this was not what we were talking about. That slow, methodical build up to Sweden's play. This was not that. This was almost a bit of a concerning performance for me.
Yeah, I think what I will say for Sweden is the only thing with that is I guess it's a caveat or whatever, is that they had a lot of players out with COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of players just coming back from COVID protocol.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying that, you're off base because, we'll see when they play England because a lot of their players are back healthy and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. But I will bring that caveat in because it limited what they could do, right? Like, if you look at the left-hand side, and I know people gave Fridolina a lot of like criticism for how she played, but you have to understand that she was playing with a completely unfamiliar left back.
Yeah.
Like, it's not someone she's used to playing in front of. There's like no chemistry whatsoever there. So she was stuck trying to figure out, should I drop in? Should I go wide so that she comes in? Like, what am I supposed to do? And she spent basically the entire game trying to figure that out. And so when you think about all the people that they had out due to COVID and stuff like that, and how, the training sessions must be very short because they didn't have that many training sessions in between their final group game and this game, right? So they losing players to COVID. They probably don't have a lot of training sessions to put together, cohesive formation that works and all that. And once that goal gets disallowed, they're kind of thinking to themselves, we timed that perfectly. What's going on? And then as shot after shot after shot after shot keeps happening and they're not scoring, they honestly must have thought, like, what is this? Is this gonna be like our fate at this Euro? First COVID wrecks us, and then now we can't even get past this goalkeeper. Like, is this how it's gonna end? So, I don't know if I can judge them. Like, Sweden are confusing because, again, group stages, they were kind of weird.
Yeah.
They showed moments where they were like brilliant, and then moments where you're like, what's going on? And in this game, they went great, but at the same time, look how many shots they had.
Yeah.
On a different day, they could have banged in like 5-6 goals.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. My only thing is like, Hannah Bennison didn't come on until like the 84th minute. They still had Lena Hurtig. They still had Sophia Jakobsen on the bench. Yeah. It was just like they had a few options. Now, I'm not in training, so I don't know how healthy those players are or anything, but it was just like, for me, you got to change something up. They were lucky. To me, they got away with it a bit because that was like a goal, a scramble at the box that ended up working. But, in second half stoppage time, it was brutal for Belgium, just absolutely brutal because they defended with so much intensity and heart, and it was amazing to see. But I wanted to see them try, almost like we talked about Serena and Plan A and Plan B. Similar thing here, I think. I wanted to see, and I think Sweden still had enough, assuming the players on the bench were healthy, there was still enough to be able to change that game in order to get a more clear shots on goal. But I will say, Belgium's goalkeeper, Everard, massive performance in this round.
Yeah, I think I had tweeted out during the game. I was asking about Hannah Bennison and why she hadn't seen the field, and I think someone responded. I can't remember if they responded or if I saw it later on as another tweet, but I think they said she wasn't 100%, and that's why she didn't come on. Because everyone was talking about like, oh, we need to change up something. Yeah. This isn't working. But I think from what I understand, a lot of the Swedish players were just coming back from COVID or had a niggling injury, so he didn't want to rush them onto the field and then make it worse or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which I understand, and I think that's why he was so reluctant to make subs. Because, I think we talked about it before the tournament started. I said one of the coaches I emphatically trust is Peter Gerhardsen.
Facts, yeah.
The guy tends to know what he's doing. So the fact that he wasn't making subs, I think his hand was kind of tied a little bit, and the fact that
Yeah.
not all of his players will fit. And I don't know about the Sophia Jacksons and all that. I don't know how fit they are or anything like that, right? So unless we're in training and we know, like, okay, this player's fit and they didn't actually play because for whatever reason, then that's different, right? But as far as I know, a lot of them were not 100% fit, which is why this game against England might be a different thing because a lot of them are going to be fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's fair. This coach is noted to be one of the best ones out there in the women's game. And I think it's important to say that he's earned a little bit of that, trust, I'll say. So it is like, I will give him that. I'm in like a couple minds, right? It's a frustrating performance because we expect more from Sweden. This is supposed to be a favorite of the tournament, aside from the host country, who was also very good. Sweden's up there as a favorite. I don't know why people are calling Spain a favorite. We were not. We understand that coaching is important, and Sweden, given their talent and their coaching, was up there. The COVID situation is bad. They got to play games all week, like leading up to the match with Jana Anderson. They weren't saying, they would just say like, she's like, for tactical reasons she wasn't included or whatever, but it was like, okay, yeah, we finally get like on match day note that she was positive with COVID. So I think she's a pretty important player for her. I will say I was super glad to see, despite Jana Anderson not being out there, that they didn't move Magda Eriksson out there to left back. I do not like when they do that. I hate that so much. She is very valuable as a center back defensively and then also with ball progression. So I think she has a very, very important game and role in the center back spot. So, it's tough to super duper criticize because there are factors, but I will say I'm still wary about them facing up against England. But yeah, so my thing consistently, like for them, is gonna be, this team is, given how they had to play and being stretched to that level of intensity and honestly frustration. I mean, 30 whatever shots is a lot of shots against the team. That's a lot of creating and manufacturing chances and opportunities to shoot and getting no reward. And then they felt so much pressure because, as we mentioned, they are a favorite. And then because of COVID and because of reasons we may or may not know about, the subs there was only one sub, and it was a late sub. It was an 84th minute sub. These players, I'm hoping, will not be exhausted because that's a lot to go through. That was a very, very difficult match. I know they had the joy and the relief of it. The celebration was everything, but that's a really tough match to play in a quarterfinal. If they had just gotten even if you play that match and you get like an 87th minute penalty, that to me even feels a little bit better than beating your head against the wall for 30 something shots and not getting anything in until the very last, almost like the last kick. I think the actual last kick was when they restarted the match, after the kick. I think that was the actual last kick. So it's like, that was a very exhausting match for them. If they already were having fitness issues given the COVID, I am a little bit concerned about their fitness level going up against a team like England. So that's like, looking ahead, that's a little concerning.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the only thing else I wanted to mention was I did want to give some credit to Belgium because we talk about how Sweden missed a lot of chances and stuff like that. It's true. At the end of the day, the deserving team won. But you got to give credit to Belgium that they hung in there for as long as they did. And yes, Nikki Everett was a big part of that. But even defensively, they're very solid. They didn't let, especially Aslani, take over the game.
Yeah.
They shut it down as much as they possibly could. And on occasion, they did break. They did go forward and try to catch Sweden on the counter. It didn't work out. But I think just overall, in the system that they look to put up, I'm going to say his name wrong, Ives Cernils, that's the name of the head coach. But the system that he put together, the tactical plan that he had together, was actually a very smart one.
Yeah.
If he had, better quality players, it probably would have worked. But unfortunately for him, Sweden just had better quality. And that's why it didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to. Can you hear
that? No.
Okay, because it's raining like crazy outside. But,
no.
Yeah, huge thunderstorm right now. But yeah. So I just wanted to give him a lot of credit and just say, well done. It was a smart plan. Sorry it didn't work out, but it almost did, right? They almost took it to extra time.
And you know what? Adding to that, I'll say that the goalkeeper, Nikki Evrard, incredible. But also, this is why I need more investment in the women's game. Okay, semi-pro player selling bouncy castles.
Yeah.
Okay, and putting in performance like that. We say this all the time. It's 2022, and I shouldn't even feel the need to say this anymore, but I'm going to say it. The talent is there. It's out there. It just needs to be coached, needs to be resourced, and given the abilities to perform at the level. Because look at a performance like that without playing full time, without the type of resources that you would initially expect, particularly in the men's game. For I don't know how many divisions the men's game get more than what she's gotten, resources than what she's gotten to improve her game. And to put out a performance like that is unbelievable skill and outrageous. So I just there's so many players like that we see across the world that it makes it even more frustrating when and I do this a lot. I post highlights a lot, and you'll get so many comments about the goalkeeping is terrible in the women's game. First of all, no, it's not. But second of all, if you understood some of these players and how they are doing things, the most recent one was Northern Ireland's goalkeeper, and it was just really,
Yeah,
you don't base your entire so and again, I know the whole thing it's even difficult to give them oxygen because the whole thing is not to give those people you're not going to change their minds. They're just bigoted and misogynistic for reasons that they got to talk to about with the therapist. That's really what it actually means. But I just thought this was such a cool story for her, and I hope that I hope the natural talent was seen and she's able to capitalize on it and given resources, whether that's from the Belgium Federation or some other team coming along and bringing her in, because it was a really, really ridiculously good performance and very, very fun to watch, even though it hurt my heart because I wanted Sweden to win pretty comfortably. Sorry, Belgium. I just really don't want to see you in the semifinal of the year competition. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we did say that there was only going to be one Cinderella story, and it couldn't be Belgium. So
right, exactly.
All right, okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Sweden versus Belgium. We can move straight into Germany versus Austria.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you were talking about Millie Bright and how she has dips in form. The first person that came into my head was Manuela Zinsberger, because I was like, oh no, no, on that second goal. And every Arsenal person I know who watches Arsenal is like, oh, there's the Zinsberger we know.
Yeah.
We were wondering where she was throughout the whole tournament. She suddenly showed up. Now everyone knows what we go through every season.
And I'm so mad because she had such a good tournament. It was so brutal for it to happen then, and against that, especially against Germany, because that's how many goals have Germany scored this tournament alone by just pressing hard on that back line. They've done it a lot. They did it to Spain. They've done it to so many. I think every team they played, they've at least gotten one goal that way. And it's that's what they're going to do. And I know the Austria team has a very deep commitment to building out of the back, but sometimes against a team who is excellent at doing these types of things, like Germany, just get the ball out. Yeah, just get the ball out. Don't give them a chance. Don't give them an opportunity. And that second one in particular, because it felt like the way that game went, it was a lot more even than we thought. I think Austria's approach stunned Germany. And when they came out and looking to go on the front foot, I think it took Germany a little while to get control of the match. But then it was only 1-0. And I think Austria still had some good chances. Even though they only had 2 shots on target the whole game, it's not like they weren't creating opportunities, given the space they have and the difference in quality between the two teams. And then to give up a second goal like that, 89th minute like that, I was just like, oh no, not like this.
So I just wanted to get that out of the way straight away, because I think that was you can't say that's the key point in the game, but that was a huge moment in the game.
Yeah.
Massive game. Because the longer it stayed at 1-0, the more Austria would have said, you know what, we have a chance here. Yeah. We just need to get one goal. And then for them to concede that kind of goal in the 89th minute, you could see it just sucked everything out of them.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything left after that.
They put in so much effort to get to that point, to have a chance. You're 1 goal down, you have a chance. Hopefully a pass finds the right foot at the right time or something, or right head at the right time. It doesn't matter. They gave themselves an opportunity to get an equalizer and really push Germany in this quarterfinal of a European championship. That is extremely dope and really good for that. That's not something that anybody would have predicted outside of maybe people who live and support Austria or from Austria and support them. Like, that is not what other people were predicting, but they had great performances. They were able to get the goals when they needed them, and it seemed like they set it up to where they might be able to do that again. And then.
Yeah. So very quickly, you and I did talk about it before the game started, that this was going to be a game for the purists.
Yes, absolutely.
That anyone watching this expecting fireworks, wasn't going to happen because of just the way the two teams play, the way they set up, the way they coached and stuff like that. We both, you going into this game, were like, oh, this could be like a war of attrition for both sides. And then it's just going to be decided on who has the better quality in the final third. And that's exactly what happened. Germany produced the moments they needed to produce to win the game. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for Austria, they couldn't do the same on the other end. And I think they had a really great chance at From save. Like, she made a great save.
Oh, that's the other thing. Didn't Austria hit the post like 3 times?
Yeah.
It was like they were so close.
Terrible. Yeah, it's not like they were terrible or anything. They were in that game for a really long time. And even though Germany went up 1-0, Austria was still in that game. Yeah. So if it hadn't been for that second goal, who knows? They could have found a stoppage time equalizer. And then we'd be talking about something different right now.
Yeah. That's the thing that really got me, is like Austria's approach was so good. Like, normally when you see a team face a team like Germany, who has so much talent and so much attacking talent as well, that you can expect a team to kind of like sit back and just try to hold on. And Austria didn't do that. Like, they were defensively sound, but they still were going forward and trying to create chances. No, that's why they hit I think it was a collection of the bar and the post 3 times.
Something like that.
So many like opportunities that were so close. But then likewise, Germany as well. I think Clara Bull, that she had that setter that was right there. I was like,
it was so bad. It was so bad. Her teammates were laughing at her. They were like, that was terrible.
Like, how did that happen to you? You've been so good. And then I think that was after she ripped a shot from the top of the box and hit the top of the bar. Like, she was going for it. I loved it. And then it was like, when that happened, I was like, she deserves to go so much.
I mean, the fact that they were up by 1-0 made it easier for them to make fun of her, because if they hadn't been up by 1-0, that would be a different story. They would be mad.
That's very true. I mean, she still needed, like, at the point of the game, that would have iced it. And you really needed to put that away, because unless Zensberger kind of kicks the ball in the pop and the ball ricochets in the back of the net, like, that's the thing that really saves her, is that. And you don't really want to rely on that, especially as an attacking talent who has a goal opportunity like that. That's got to be in the back of the net. But I mean, I honestly, I know that a lot of people say that, and of course the commentator said that as well, because it really is like, it's one of those chances that comes where you just, as soon as you see the pass is made and the player's going to be able to get their foot to it, you just assume that's a goal. And then to see it go wide and not end up in the net, you're like, what happened? I will say, there are reasons these things happen, okay? Sometimes the foot does not do what you want it to do. She had been running, she was exhausted. So I just think it was a combination, like fatigue, and then you get your timing wrong. This is the thing. Sport is difficult. We lose sight of that. There's a lot of running, and it is very difficult to execute. Yes, should she have scored? Of course, but there are reasons why she didn't. And I think it was a draining, exhausting performance, a lot of pressure. And if you get a touch slightly wrong, that can happen to some of the best in the world. So, I don't want to pile on her about that, but it was one of those moments that was really shocking, where it was like, okay, Germany did it. They crafted that goal, and then did the ball just roll wide? Like, how was that not in the net? What happened? But
you kind of want to like go back and be like, did I blink and I missed something, or like, like did it bobble? Like, what happened?
Right?
Like,
I was like, did it hit a patch of grass or something? Like, what happened with that? But it's just one of those things in the sport. But she was, I guess, the person that ended up being the it's weird. We call him a scapegoat, and then we say goat, whatever. Zensberger.
Yeah. Moment of silence for that one. No, but really, like, people are going to focus on that mistake, and, rightly so, because that was the killer, right? That was the dagger. That was the one that guaranteed that Germany were going to win the game. But up until that point, she'd been so good.
Yeah.
She had kept Austria in games that they had no right to be in. Like, there was, I want to say against, not Norway. I think the England game, was the very first game against England, where Austria, like, on a different day could have tied up the game, even won the game.
Yeah.
And part of that was due to Zinsberger's performances in goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was really, really good. And it was kind of sad to see her tournament, considering all the other goalkeepers and how they performed and how their tournaments have ended. It was kind of sad to see her tournament end like that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that is one of the frustrating things about a tournament ending, especially knockout game. You know, you're going home because of that mistake, and it's hard to live with that. So I'm hoping that she's all right and that people are around her kind of keeping her up because that is a very difficult way to go out. I mean, like tactically, like making right decisions in these
Yeah.
moments. Like we said, put your foot through the ball. You don't need
Yeah.
to play around with it. Be aware of your surroundings, especially like we said off the top. This is what Germany does. They
Yep.
create goals like this from high pressure very frequently. They've done it in every single game. You
Yeah.
know that you know your opponent, know what they're going to try and do to you when you have the ball at your feet in the back. So get the ball out of there as quick as you can. If you got to play long, fine, you play long. They build it up and end up scoring a goal with build up play coming back the other way. Okay, fine, but don't let that happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only other thing I want to say about this game, though, is I want to give a special shout out. I like to highlight these players because I've been doing it unexpectedly throughout this. But Elena Obrador,
Oh
she
man.
is one of those players where,
She's worth the price of admission, so to speak.
yes, absolutely. I think there are certain players, and there aren't that many, but there are certain players that if the camera angle allows you to, just lock onto them. Do not
Yeah.
follow the ball. Follow them. She is one of those players. Follow her. Watch how much ground she covers. Watch how she's always in the right place at the right time. She kind of understands where build-up play is going to be and where she needs to be in order to cut the ball out or be a passing option or link play in a different way. Like she is so active at reading the game and fluid in her movement and all over the wing to wing, all over the place. She's all over the place, and it's great to see. I wish, she's one of those players where, sometimes in like NWSL games, you get these really weird camera angles that look like they're really high, and
Yeah.
they're like half the timeline will be upset
Like the
about
San
them, and then
Diego one.
then like the nerds like me and a few other people are like, no, we want to see this angle. Like we like to see what's going on, how the players are moving around. This is the kind of thing where I want like an all 22 camera just
Yeah.
so I can follow Lena
Oh,
Oberdorf
I would love
because
that.
it's outrageous to
Can you
watch
imagine
her.
if they started doing that? Like say for the World Cup or something, they do all 22s on certain players.
Oh, I'd pay for it. I would pay for it.
I
If
would.
you offered me that per match, like
FIFA, if you're listening, FIFA, that would be awesome. And then you just drop
yeah,
like after each match day or whatever, just drop a couple of episodes on YouTube or something. Or if you want us
yeah.
to pay, we will pay.
Oh
That
my
would be
God, yes.
great to put an all 22 on a player.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it because it's hard to see, especially because the camera likes to pan in and out. The closer you get to like each attacking third, they pan in and out. And especially a player who plays defensive midfield, you'll lose her very quickly
Yeah.
in the pan. And it's very frustrating because you're like, I know she's doing something back there to support
wanna
the
see
team. If there's a turnover, she's gonna be in the right position. Like I want to be able to watch her and understand what she's doing in these moments. But if you can, please lock onto her in the next match and just follow her around, even if it's for like, 30 seconds, 45 seconds at a time or whatever. Follow her and just watch her movement and what she does because she's been excellent all tournament. But man, she was so good for Germany. So good.
Yeah.
There were so many, turnovers in midfield where it looked like Austria was going to be able to put something together. They have a numbers advantage and they're really excited. And then all of a sudden, balls at Lena Obrador's feet. How did that happen?
Yeah. And I wanna shout out Arvind on Twitter.
Yes.
One of the people we work with sometimes on WoSo Collective. I'm pretty sure he did a tactical write-up about Lena Obrador's positioning. He was at the game, so he got to watch her live. Like he could see everything she was doing. And I remember he was talking about on his timeline after the game, he was like, that was amazing. Like being able to actually physically see all the things that she's doing and not have to rely on a TV camera panning in and out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you go to his timeline, if you check out his timeline or his Substack, he should have it there. I think it's called Tactical Rants. I gotta double check that. I think it's called Tactical Rants. But if you go to his timeline, you'll see it right there. Like he's linked it and everything, and you'll be able to see the piece that he did on Lena Obrador. And she's great player, and we'll see how far she takes Germany.
This is also, you mentioned Owen being at the game. This is also a little plug for the hashtag Go to Games campaign.
Oh yes, 100%.
Please do. I know financially, if you can, I understand sometimes you can't, especially travel. But if you can go to games, please do. It's incredible to watch players live.
Okay, All right, so that is it for Germany versus Austria. We'll move on to the last game, which is France versus the Dutchies, the Netherlands. That was, I don't know, sometimes when you watch a game and you're like, how is this game still 0-0? That was this game, especially in that first half. Like when halftime blew, I was like, I do not understand how this game is still 0-0. And yes, of course, we'll talk about them later. You know, the goalkeeper, Van Domsler and Stef Graf, Van der Graaf, sorry, and how she played and all that. We'll talk about that. But genuinely, France should have scored in that first half. How they didn't, I still don't understand.
This was another one of those. The team has over 30 shots, and they get one goal, and the goal is a very late penalty, actually a penalty in extra time.
Yeah,
this was. I mean, France were all over Netherlands from the first kick. Cascarino was tearing people up. Diani, oh my God, like Diani had one of those. Should have been like, if I don't know, like if you try to figure out how to put this. Like Diani is one of the best young players in the world, and
because we forget sometimes how old she is.
Yeah, exactly, and she showed again like how she can take over matches. She was unmarkable. It didn't matter what they did, who they put over there. At some point, they had two players trying to guard, like defend her. She is so good, and yeah, it was really frustrating again to watch another performance like this. But I was also like staring there, looking at Netherlands, like, what y'all doing? like what y'all going like join us and for this quarterfinal matchup?
Like at some point, like what's going to happen?
Yeah, because this did not look good, and I was like, hey, Mark Parsons, you need to like come on now, like you need to. This ain't looking good. Like I don't understand how, given the talent, and I do think overall, like top to bottom, France is the more talented team, but not 30-something shots to France. You know, like the talent discrepancy ain't that much. So I was like, hey, this ain't looking too good. But yeah, then
we should actually talk about that, because that first half tactical formation that he had, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of sites listed it as a 4-3-3, but it did not look like a 4-3-3 to me. It looked like Groningen and Spitzer were like the bottom half of the midfield. And you had Van der Donk in the middle, sort of, and then you had Miedema just above her, so almost like a 2-1-1 midfield. And then you had Palova and Bernstein as the two forwards. Like it was a really strange formation, and it showed because it didn't work. Like France were just tearing it apart.
Yeah.
At ease, at will. Whenever they felt like going forward and just like creating a chance, they could do it.
Yeah.
And what it also did is that it limited going forward what the Netherlands could do. So instead of being able to rely on Palova's pace or Bernstein's pace or Miedema dropping back and creating it, or even Van der Donk creating, like it was just constant wave after wave after wave of French pressure. And the fact that at halftime he made changes to change up the tactical setup shows that he knew that he had gotten it wrong, and he was very lucky to get to halftime at 0-0.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, it was just shocking. It was shocking to watch. And honestly, if they wouldn't have, you called him out in the beginning with Van der Graaf and Van Domselaar. I mean, Van Domselaar, that's their number one, right? From here on. Like that's all you need. We don't need anything else. You're the Netherlands number one. We all saw it. That ridiculous last second save she had against Wendy Renard. Incredible. We talked about women's goalkeeping earlier. That was an outrageous save to get across there and be able to swat it with her left hand. That was unreal.
And I want to thank the TV broadcasters for getting all the right angles on it, because we don't always get that. We don't always get the right angles. But on this one, they were like, we're going to show you all the great angles so you can see just how good that save was.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because that's somebody who likes to like go do gifs and everything. Sometimes I'm sitting here waiting for like the perfect replay, because they'll show like a very high angle or whatever. You can't see some of the intricate buildup or whatever. You want to be able to see like the players moving and all that. Like that's good for maybe like the first clip. But sometimes they were doing that and they show like slow motion of the celebration, and then that's the end of the replay. And I'm like, no, like what's going on? Like there's so much more to this like play that happened. Like show it to us. And so I was getting frustrated, but this is one they got absolutely right, because that was a perfect angle to see that from. And they gave it to us in slow motion so we could see it. And then they did the goal inside the camera.
Yeah,
So you could
exactly.
see how she kind of flies out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That was so cool. That was so dope. So yeah, they did a great job covering that. But yeah, I mean, this was complete domination from France. And again, talent level, yes, France is more talented. But if I'm Mark Parsons and you're lining up with the talent that you have, you know, and Viv was back. This is another thing. Like that was supposed to be a very big thing. Of course, we know she had COVID. She returned. You know, she was tested negative, so we don't know exactly like how good she wasn't subbed. So she played all game.
Oh no, she was bad. Like you could see she was not good.
Yeah,
like she should have been subbed out. She should have been subbed out way earlier. Like I don't even know why he was just kept on. I guess he was like, oh, we gotta keep her on, but she was not good. Like, and not good in the sense that she wasn't playing well. As in, she wasn't good because she looked exhausted.
Yeah.
By like minute 60.
Yeah.
In the second half.
I will say, I think one of the reasons possibly could have been just straight up defending from set pieces, because Wendy is always a target, and there was at least one time where Viv got the ball just in front of Wendy, and Viv can do that in the air. So I think maybe, but also I wouldn't play around with COVID and some of the things that can happen. And when a player's returning from that, I'll be like, yeah, if you start seeing them struggling and they're not, they don't have the fitness level after having all the things that COVID does to your respiratory system, perhaps you don't have her out there that entire time. So yeah, I was kind of like pretty iffy about that. But I just honestly, beyond all of that, it's just wild to watch. I mean, France did what they wanted to do in this match, and going up against Diacre, Mark Parsons, come on, man. Like I know France is very talented, but and even at that, I think Matteo didn't start for France. It was just one of those wild things. I know there was a chance that I believe it was Toletti had, and I was like, I tweeted, I was like, yo, Amandine Henry scores that.
Yeah, if Henry was there, she would have scored.
Scores that. Matteo scores that.
Matteo scores.
Yeah. There were a lot of moments like that where I was like, because we keep talking about it, right? Yeah. We said that at some point that decision is going to come back to bite them. Given how many shots they had and how they weren't able to, like, they were, yes, when they could get the ball wide to their wingers, they can create. Like, that's the thing they're going to be able to do, because basically they have, especially when Basha is out there, but when Karchawi's out there, Diani, Cascarino, you have multiple players who can they can be wingers and they can beat anybody 1v1. So as long as you can get the ball wide to those players, you're going to have a chance. But building through midfield is a different story. And there were times, particularly in the last part of the match, where France's midfield was non-existent.
Oh,
it just meant that they were exhausted, but they were non-existent. And it was like, oh, this is not looking good.
And that's where actually I was coming to the second half adjustments that both coaches made. Mm-hmm. So Parsons realized that he messed up in the first half, and he made the adjustments that gave some control back to Netherlands. I wouldn't say complete control, but it gave them something, and they started to threaten France a little bit more.
Yeah.
Corinne Diacre, on the other hand, what were those substitutions? What possessed her to put Diani as her 9? Like, what is going on there? She was killing it on the right all game long, and then you're like, you know what? Let's just nullify her. Let's just take it out of the game and put her on the right wing. Why?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I tweeted it, but I said, basically, I was like, right now, it looks like Diacre is caught between, like, do I want to win this game or do I want to torture my players? Because, like, what was she doing?
Did you see everyone's reaction when the penalty was scored and it panned to her and she had, like, everyone on social media was like,
does she even like this team? Like, what is she doing? She's such a weird character. It's so strange to me that they back her so much. And the Diani at 9 thing was just strange. Just strange. And then midfield decisions were just strange.
And she ended up course correcting again in extra time. She brought on Sarr and then put Diani back on the right. I'm like, well, why did you move her in the first place? Like, I do not understand what you're doing here. And then, like, I think Matteo came on as well later on. And then all of a sudden you see France regaining control in the game and you're like, hello? And because of that, it leads to Diani playing out on the right, winning the penalty, and then France win the game. Like, we always talk about this over and over again about some of the managers, some of the head coaches, I guess for American side, the head coaches for teams especially women's football, are like mind-boggling. Like the decisions they make, the things they do, the rosters, all of that. Diakra, we could file right under it, and everyone knows it. We talked about it pre-tournament, during the tournament, all of that. She is a problem when it comes to how she puts together her team, whether it be the roster or whether it be what she does tactically. Mm-hmm. And you and I had talked about it. We said in the quarterfinals, there's going to come a point where she's going to put Pasha and Kachawi on the same side, which is fine because they're both attacking and they can both defend and all that. Great. But what does that mean for the rest of the team? What does it mean for the rest of the fluidity of the team? Yeah. We talked about it beforehand and we said that point is going to come. And that's where if you had an Henri, your midfield would still have some semblance of cohesion. But because Henri isn't there, your next best option would have been to put in Mateo. She didn't do that. Yeah. She was like, I'm going to go Dioro, Toletti, and I forget the last person, the defensive midfielder. Bilbao. Yeah. So that's what she decided to go with. That's what she decided to stick with. And in the first half, it was fine because, she had gotten the tactics right in the first half. But in the second half, after the Netherlands had made their adjustments, her adjustments were worse. And we talked about before, we talked about how coaches are always, you want to be a proactive coach and not a reactive coach. Yeah. She was reactive. Yes. And even then, when she made the changes, they weren't the right changes. You're like, okay, fine, you're not happy with what Millard is doing, but that doesn't mean you put Diani as the 9. Right.
Especially given what she had done out wide. Like that's where a lot of your attacking play is coming from. And you don't just neutralize that yourself. You make them adjust to it. Conversely, I'll also say Mark Parsons did some weird stuff too, because I don't understand why Damaris Garola didn't end up in the game until what was it, 115th minute substitution? It's ridiculous. I'm like, that area of the midfield, especially when you see how much France was struggling in midfield, that's a perfect player to put on to be able to take advantage of that. Or at least force Diakri's hand in changing the way the team is set up so that they can have more control in midfield. But I think if you put Damaris in there, then you're able to build out much different ways. You're able to take more control of that midfield, and that's exactly what they needed to do. So, there were some strange decisions, I think, on both sides. Again, we're constantly caught. The diaspora on that France team. And the way those players are so damn good, I cannot root against that team because of the players. But God, that coach makes me so frustrated.
Yeah, it's watching this. Watching France is a frustrating endeavor for both the men's and women's team. Yeah.
It just seems to be like they're not comfortable unless there's chaos, and I guess they can succeed because of the talent level. But I'm like, can you just not? Can you just have a
normal tournament, just a normal, perfectly normal tournament?
But I mean, decisions would be great.
On the flip side, the players, I'm happy for them. This is the first semifinal they made.
Yeah.
It's the first semifinal they made. So that's congratulations
wild,
to them.
Isn't it? That sounds wild. When they said, I was like, that can't be true. And then I started thinking,
I looked it up.
No, that's true.
I looked it up because I was like, because I remember thinking to myself, I think that's right because I do not remember France ever making a semifinal.
Yeah.
The only semifinal the only semifinal I remember them making was at the 2011 World Cup.
Skills. Okay.
That was the only one I could remember off the top of my head because I was like, I remember they played the US in the semifinal and they lost that game, and then the US went to play Japan. But that was the only one I could remember. The rest I was like, nah. I really, really don't remember them making the semifinal. And I actually thought they weren't going to make it because Gioro's miss in the second half.
Oh, the header? Oh, my goodness.
That reminded me of Tini's miss in the 2015 World Cup.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no. Is it happening again?
Yeah. Oh, that was rough. That was very rough. I thought that was for sure. That was another one of those, like we talked about Clara Bull. That was another one of those where you just, that when that ball makes that connection right there, you're like, yeah, the net's going to move. And it doesn't. And you're like, what happened?
That's true. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out the French players making the semifinal the first time at the Euros. It's been a long time coming, and they deserve it. They really do. Those players are brilliant, and they're just hampered by a bad coach.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is all of the quarterfinals. We're going to do a very quick hit prediction for the semifinals before we wrap up. Of course, we first up have England versus Sweden. I'm still going to stick with Sweden. I don't know why, but I'm still going to stick with Sweden. even though it's a very very like it's like like a 49 51 kind of choice. Like where I think I could I see England winning? Yes, 100%. But I'm still gonna stick with Sweden.
That's funny because I have been shaken. I am shooketh by by Sweden's performance, and I understand the COVID, and we talked about that. But will they be able to neutralize England's wingers in the same way that even Spain did? I
I mean,
don't
if Anna
know.
Glass is around, yeah.
Yeah, if Hannah Glass is around, then yes. But I honestly don't know. It depends on availability report and who's going to be out there, and like we talked about with Viv, how fit are they going to be? Are they
Yeah.
going to be able to play in a match of this intensity as long as they're going to need to play? So that's a question for me. I don't know. I almost feel like it's going to be England.
Fair enough. Like I couldn't argue either way. I can't
Yeah.
sit here and be like, no, no way, it's gonna be Sweden. I can't because, like I said,
Ooh,
go
let
ahead.
me say this. I found a way to hedge because I love to hedge. If England start Russo, they win.
Good point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say if Aslani wins the midfield battle, Sweden
Mhm.
wins.
Yeah. I definitely will go
That's
with
my
that.
hedging point.
Yeah. Aslani's
Yeah,
been like quietly one of the best players of the tournament, I
yeah,
think. Like she's
yeah.
been like
If Sweden
top
win,
two or three.
yeah, if Sweden win, she's my tournament player of
Yeah,
the tournament.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next game we have Germany versus France. I'm picking Germany because of the coaches.
Ooh.
I'm picking Germany because
Ooh.
of the coaches. I think that Diakri got away with one against the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And I think against a more solid team, a more cohesive team, a more talented team in Germany with a coach who, I had my doubts about, but has now seemed to have figured things out.
Yeah.
I'm going with Germany.
Yeah, that's a massive one. It's really hard for me to go against all that diaspora, but I really do think that like it is one of those things where this is a really bad opponent for France to come up against because they're like you talked about earlier. Sometimes the players on the pitch are going to need to look to their coach, and what their coach is going to give them, what the France coach is going to give them, it's not going to be great. And so I think that Germany will know all of the ways to cope tactically with things that France do and know how to attack them. The quality of France's players can always be the neutralizer. Like always. Sometimes they can just do stuff out of nothing. I mean, we saw Cascarino take a wicked shot. We've seen her score from cutting inside and hitting a beautiful shot from the right. So or the right foot. So like I think things like that can happen in this game, of course. Like France could come out and score some absolute bangers, and then all of a sudden, it's 2-0, 3-0, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. But if I look at the tactical matchup of it, and I think who's more likely to get it right versus who's more likely to get it wrong, and then who's going to adjust in a way that doesn't make sense versus who's going to adjust in a way that makes sense and gets results, I got to go with Germany as well. So if it's a tactical matchup, yeah. If it's individual quality, I give it to France, and that's all up to the coaches.
Yeah. And I would say, I think for me, the determining factor is, I said coaching already, but the other thing is, Katoto is a big miss in that game.
Oof, yeah.
Katoto is a huge miss in that game.
Yeah.
Like, I love Melvin a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I love her because I do follow, Leona and stuff, but I'm a big fan of hers, but she's not quite at the same level as Katoto.
No.
That's just the honest truth, especially as a striker.
And that's no shade to her. Katoto's just that damn good.
Yeah, so I think
Katoto's
that's
amazing.
the other determining factor that could separate the two teams.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very fair. And the way that Germany do, like the way that Germany have been getting at least one goal every single game, I could see them doing something very similar.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like that level of intensity. I think they're going to be even more apt to do it just to make sure they're pinning those dangerous fullbacks
Wingers,
back
yeah.
for France. Like you're
And the
going to need
wingers,
to
yeah.
keep the wingers back. You're going to need to keep the fullbacks back because you can't let them like what Netherlands did. You can't just let them go 1v1 and tear you up. Like you're going to have to push them back. And Germany's very, very good at doing that with their pressing. So yeah, this one could be very, very dangerous for France, and it's all because. And again, what did we just say? Damn it, you have all the talent in the world. Make good coaching decisions, smart decisions from the federation, and you can dominate. But maybe this will be a game that changes things. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so that is us. We're going to wrap it up here. We will drop another one after the semifinals. So either the Thursday or the Friday, because the finals on Sunday. So anytime between Wednesday night and Saturday night
There you
is
go.
when we'll drop the semi-final recap and also touch upon the who we think will win the final. But yeah, all we want is good games.
Yes.
We don't want any injuries.
Correct.
We hope everyone has a good time. And yeah, just has a great time watching some good football. Thank you very much for joining me once again, André. And thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're tuning in again, once again, if you're a new watcher or a new viewer or a new listener to us, welcome. And for those who always followed us, thank you very much for tuning in again. See you next time.